Hey everyone, welcome to a quick shot of romance. I am Becky, and I am super excited to be joined for this episode by Leah. Hi, Leah.
Hi, Becky.
So I can't believe this is the first quick shot we are doing about this author and her books.
I know. I'm so excited though, because this is a series that everybody needs to be reading.
It is, and it's so funny. So, on this episode of A Quick Shot of Romance, we are reviewing Silent Lies by Neva Altaj. This is book 8 in the Perfectly Imperfect series. So, I have to tell a little bit of a story. I actually found this author and this series quite by accident.
Mm-hmm.
I was on.
You're in your dark era.
I was in my dark era getting ready to work through the Mafia episode, and I was looking specifically for like a single dad mafia romance. I really was looking for a single dad nanny mafia romance because I don't think there's one out there.
There's a small smattering because I've come across a couple, but they're very few and far between.
So I went looking for single dad mafia romances, and I found this series.
Mm-hmm.
I think Broken Whispers. I started with book 2, which gave Leah a little bit of the hives.
Well, it happens.
It
But
does.
it was really good.
It was really good. And I really just am enjoying this series.
But also that one had like Jill Ramsauer Silent Vows vibes too, which is why I think a lot of us really liked it, because then it made us find like we wanted those like selective cute
Yeah.
books.
So
Because it was delightful.
super delightful. We'll link the synopsis of this book in our on the shelf show notes at buzzingaboutromance.com. The release date for this book is October 19th, 2023. Tropes, Mafia. This is deception trope.
But it's like deception both ways and multiple and kind of not deception, but deception at the same time. It's like a whole mixed bag of deception.
It's mutual deception, and it's a little bit of everything. Lots of lies, lots of secrets.
Mm-hmm.
It's an age gap, enemies to lovers, forced marriage, possessive alpha hero. They are absolute opposites.
My gosh, like the most opposite opposites you can ever have.
So now that I say that, on the surface they're opposites, but if you think about what our main character, our heroine, is kind of hiding,
Their trauma is very similar.
yeah, it was almost parallel.
Yeah, it was more of a case for like their personalities and their projections are the opposites, but their traumas were the same, but how they dealt with those traumas were very different.
The way they face the world seems to be very different too. Like,
Well, yes.
um, he's absolute protector, toucher, and die vibes. If you are looking for that over the top alpha hero that
That's not
will
even
take your
it's like,
eyeballs,
well, it's more of a look at her and I'll scoop your eye out.
right?
Literally, just putting that out there, friends.
The series is the Perfectly Imperfect series. These are absolute standalones. They are slightly interconnected, but they are not fully interconnected.
They're interconnected in the sense where you will see a character from another book, and that's about it.
But that's
Like,
about
the
it.
stories do not intertwine, like the stories don't overlap. Like you meet characters. Like we met the heroine for the next book, and we visited heroes and heroines from books previous. But the only reason they connect is because there's a connection to the characters in this book.
So
if it wasn't for that, there would be no connection whatsoever.
They all dance in the same world and they have business interactions, but one book is not reliant on the next book.
No, these are true standalones.
And the other thing I like about this series is, oftentimes in Mafia, we get like a trilogy or a duet. And Neva Altaj does not. She gives us one HEA per book, front to back.
And they're short and concise too.
Yeah.
Like the books are only like 250, maybe 300 pages for the longer ones. I don't even think she makes it that far, like lengthwise. They're short, they're concise, they're like not every book is the most dynamic thing you'll ever read. There are some standouts, some not, but they're all well done. The stories, well, we might not love them, they're good.
So point of view for this one is dual first person. Put out percentage is 47%. There is not a third act breakup in this book.
No.
So content warnings. First of all, I don't often read the author notes, because I'm me. And I will say I did read the epilogue in this book, but I'm glad I did because it was adorable.
It was adorable.
But read the author note. But here's the content warning straight from the author's page in the book. Please be aware that this book contains content some readers may find disturbing, such as mentions of an immediate family member's death, as well as graphic descriptions of violent torture and gore. The other thing I want to mention is there is mention of suicide.
Yeah.
But there's that. So one of the things that's interesting about this book is our hero, Drago.
Mm-hmm.
He loses his father and one of his sisters in a bomb.
His mom was there too.
No,
because that person is his dad's ex-wife. It wasn't his mom.
Oh, it wasn't his mom.
No, his mom and dad his dad had been married and they were divorced, and he married his mom, and so they had Drago, and then a few years later, because there was a big gap between Drago and his sisters. But no, Kiva, she's not his mom, because when he introduces her to Sienna, he's like, this is my father's ex-wife.
See, and I just took it to mean like he didn't say ex-wife, he didn't say widow instead of ex-wife.
Yeah, ex-wife.
Interesting.
Because his mom and dad died in the bomb, and then one of the twins did.
Okay. So in that bombing, it's in the prologue, we learn that Drago has some hearing loss.
Yes.
And if you read the author's note, she does an exceptional job of explaining what his hearing loss is and how it affects what he hears.
Yeah, and it was nice to have that because there was little nuances that you could pick out. But even if she hadn't done that author's note with that specific instance, there's enough description throughout the story that it explains it well enough. Because there's a point where Sienna figures it out, and Keva is talking to her about it, and so she explains it a little bit more, why he hears certain volumes and certain pitches. So I feel we would have been okay without the author note, but I appreciate that she did that at the same time.
There was a moment in this book where Drago is having an internal monologue, and Sienna laughs. And he says, I wish I could hear her laugh. My heart broke a little bit for him in that moment.
Well, and there were a couple things too where she whispers something, and it was a pretty profound moment in what she says. And he says she had to have whispered it because he couldn't even feel it.
Yeah.
Because they were close enough, but he couldn't hear the rumble, but he could see her lips moving. So he knew what she said. He's I wish I could hear that, or even feel that, is how he put it.
I like that she did that because it gave him some softness and humanity that we didn't necessarily get in a lot of interactions.
No, because he's kind of a psycho.
Kind of a psycho? I'm fairly certain he is a psycho.
No, because he loves his sister, and he falls in love with Sienna, and girl, he digs out people's eyes because they look at her, and he is not okay with that. Touch her and die? With your eyeballs, people, you couldn't even look at her. And he so he owns this club, and he tells everybody, and it's very exclusive. Everybody who goes into this club, you will not look at my wife. He takes them to his office and puts their eyeballs in a cup, and they walk out with them.
I think the best moment was when Sienna was like, why will no one make eye contact with me?
Well, and then the one point where his sister's he's going to get a spoon. And she's like, why would he need a spoon? And she tells her, and she's like, oh, he won't do that.
And then she looks over, and he's sharpening a spoon.
Ready for it. I think, so let's talk about Sienna. Sienna is this she's
She's a mafia.
dichotomy.
Well, she's a bit of a mafia princess.
But she is, but she isn't at the same time. She is bright. She is colorful. She is, oh my God, the description of these outfits. I'm like, she is like, I don't even know what she is wearing. She wears sequins. She
The
like the
chicken
girl,
coat.
the chicken coat, but he loves her chicken coat.
It's just like a bright yellow furry coat that she wears to their wedding day, and
But she
everything matches.
but she is this rainbow of chaos that has entered his darkness. But as you get below the surface, inherently that's who she is.
There's a
But
lot
it's
of pain behind that
there's
sparkle.
so much pain behind the sparkle. And like it's one of those things where you have to read it to really like understand it. But I just really love the way that the author created this character for her because she is an extremely intelligent and smart, like street smart, mafia smart
Well, I think
person.
her background is very interesting. So we talked about how they had these parallel backgrounds. Sienna is the sister of a Nostra Costa underboss.
It's Costa Nostra, I think.
Oh, did I mix
I
it
think
all
you
up?
have the order wrong. Yeah, it's
Whatever. The
Costa Nostra.
Italian, the Sicilian Italian mob, her brother is an underboss.
Yes.
And she is also a twin.
Yes.
And her twin at one point is kidnapped and sexually assaulted, found and gets married
So
to,
yeah, she's like 3 books prior to this. So if you want that story, read
right.
that one. It's very good.
So, and if
But she harbors a lot of guilt
she
because of
does,
that.
she
But
does.
she also harbors a lot of guilt in the way her parents died. Like, girl, like the guilt drowns her. And so she creates this fluffy persona.
Yeah. And I really identified with her character, but I like how, so this was different in mafia books for us because Drago's whole, he's Serbian mafia, which I don't know that I've
Mhm.
ever read a Serbian mafia book before.
I think I maybe have come across one or two, but again, not
Right,
super
not a ton.
prevalent.
Um, his entire family, everybody that's part of his family that is single, that does not
Lives
have
at the
children,
house.
lives
Hmm.
at the main compound in the house.
Yeah.
And it's mass chaos. And oh my God, there is a scene because Sienna is a princess. She
Hmm.
had maids and cooks and stuff, but she's helped everybody pulls their own weight. So people help with
Hmm.
cooking and dishes. When she puts the soap, the kitchen soap, in the
Oh, yeah, in the
dishwashers,
dishwasher.
I was dying.
But it's one of those things where she was never exposed to that stuff. She was never taught how to do it. And she really wanted to be welcomed and be a part of this family because like she didn't feel that welcomeness like from the get-go. But it didn't take long for everybody in the family to fall under her spell because she is inherently like this sweetheart of a person who again though is a little diabolical and super intelligent because there's this one point where she's sitting down and talking about how he can launder money through this like
Right?
business that he should set up. And like she has like a step-by-step process. So like girl knows what she's talking about.
She was
She is not all chicken coats and
No,
sparkles.
she was super smart, learns language. She learned Serbian, which is one of the
That was
secrets that she was
that was
hiding.
and actually that was one of the reasons they got married in the first place. And you learn that right off the bat because languages are kind of like her thing.
Yeah. So incredibly smart. There were some really dynamic side characters that if Nevaeh holds to how she typically does her books, I hope that we get to
Oh, this
meet.
this twin sister. I think she'll get a book, and
I
I
think
bet
that
it's the brother.
the twin sister needs a book, but I
Uh-huh.
also want Philip, his right hand man. I feel like
Uh-huh.
there's something more under there.
Hmm.
But honestly, this book was so good. It was such a great read. I've really been struggling with reading lately. And this was one that I was mad that I couldn't read it, that I had to do grown up things.
I
Um,
don't think so at
Grown
first.
up things are the worst.
But it's one of those books that draws you and you don't want to put it down too. It wasn't one of those books, there weren't missteps. The pacing was really well done. Like she's kind of hit her stride, I feel like, in
Yeah.
these last couple books that she's written. And I think that's the thing. And like when you need that psycho a little bit in your life, like Draco was the perfect psycho.
And it was like I don't want to spoil it, but he has a very gruesome side to how he deals with violence in his world, and he's a businessman and has plans, but then he has dogs that are currently wearing satin bows.
Because and at one point in the book, he looks at the dogs because she likes to match the dogs to what color she's wearing for the day. But you honestly, like Becky said, the epilogue, like the opening of the epilogue, you need to read it because it's adorable. And it just really shows like the softness that she brings out in him. He's still a ruthless, crazy psycho, but like that softness that she creates in him is 1000% worth the epilogue read.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that I read it because it was really a phenomenal epilogue and it just made my heart so happy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you, Leah, for reading Silent Lies with me.
Of course, it was worth the read.
I'm so glad we found this author, and it's really been a highlight of reading this year.
It has, yes.
If you have a book you think we should review for a quick shot of romance, send us an email to thebees@bookcaseandcoffee.com. And
until next time. Happy reading, everybody.
Happy reading.
Find us on Instagram at buzzingaboutromance or on Twitter at buzzingromance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.